Welcome to Drinks Coach. Yes, indeed, I'm back. At Vinesack, social media, try and concentrate on that one. You can put it on Drinks Coach UK, but that's kind of not for my mates. People I dialogue with, please use my private handle, Vinesack, but you can use Drinks Coach UK if you've got any questions about anything that I post on this YouTube channel. Yes, you're watching YouTube. Please hit subscribe, whack the old bell. I'd love to have some more subscribers. It all makes a difference in the end. But if you've been missing my content, it's not because I've been lazy and not been doing anything. I realised that when I do small pieces of content, 5-10 minute content on Instagram, I sometimes use that to try and lead people onto this channel. But then 300 people watch this channel, but 6,500 people see the Instagram post. So I've been doing quite a lot of small Instagram stuff to see how that changes things. But thanks for very much for being my old faithful. This is where the more serious material, you call it that, ends up. And today I've got a short one. I just wanted to give you guys something to have a look at over the weekend, which you might find interesting. Been to a lot of tastings. This is the time of the year when all of the different independents, all the big countries have their generic press tastings. I'm hoping to make money throughout the summer from wines they've shown us now. And here I am with some wines. Thank you very much, Louise Wishart, from Ellis of Richmond / Richmond Wine Agencies, who very kindly looked after me this week. And there's the wine here, which is going to be another very short chat. I might put that up on both on this and on Instagram. We'll see how time allows. Anyway, so I've got 3 white wines here, and they're South African. I know that's not much of a surprise with me, but I was very excited to see that Ellis and Richmond Wine Agencies, Richmond Wine Agencies, stick the teeth back in, represent a winery I've been looking out for some time called Doolhof, D-O-L. No, D-O-O-L. This is going well, isn't it? D-O-O-L-H-O-F. Doolhof. There we go. You can see that at the bottom there. Where are they? The ranch itself, and it's a holiday resort. They do the things that South Africa does so well. There's weddings there virtually every day during the summer. They have a wonderful restaurant. They have incredible facilities there, and outdoor activities and things, because they're just wonderful rolling sort of like end of Valley Vale. Where are they? Well, for those people that know South Africa's geography a little bit, we're north of Stellenbosch, okay, but we're not in Paarl. We're kind of sort of in Paarl, but not in Paarl. So if you go in Stellenbosch and you keep heading north away from Cape Town, you'll find that you go down the Paarl High Street, and then you take a right. You take a right towards the mountain ranges, towards a town called Worcester. Yeah, Worcester. And Worcester is like 20 miles over a couple of ranges. You go through Bainskloof Pass, which is one of them, and Kronekloof, I think it is, which are 2 pass ranges, where you have some very high altitude vineyards. There's some vineyards from one of my favourite producers that you've seen me mention in the past, called De Grendel, and they have a vineyard up there called Op de Berg, up the mountain, or on the mountain, and it's absolutely amazing for Syrah and Pinot Noir, in my opinion. Amongst other things, I think they do a lovely Chardonnay there too, but very, very remote by normal standards, if you like. But if you're going towards Worcester, you get to the town of Wellington first. Wellington is about 5 miles southeast of Wellington. But Wellington is like, if you go north from there, you're very quickly in a town called Rivière Castile, which is the gateway, the open door to an area which has got a lot of press recently, a lot of press over the last 20 years, in fact, a very exciting region called Swartland. And Swartland is the large region above Paarl, and when I say large, it's the size of Wales. Okay, so it needs to be broken down a little bit more. But Malmesbury, Swartland, which is the bottom westish bit, is where we're at here. So these wines are halfway between Wellington and Worcester, not halfway, but between Wellington and Worcester. So they're about 10-15 miles east of Paarl, longest high street in the world. And I know what's weird about this place is the vineyards or the mountains and the mountain range here look incredibly dry and unforgiving, and it looks very arid. But then there are tiny pockets where, because of prevailing winds, prevailing rain patterns, and because of peaks which create precipitation in the rain, you get the right amount of rain at the right times of the day most of the time in this small little backwater area. I can't remember exactly the name of the valley, but Doolhof sits right at the end of it in Grunnerkloof or Grunneberg Mountains. And they have this wonderful little area of soil. We were driven there after I did some wine tasting many years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago, because they just planted this area and produced these new super wines. And yes, I know what it's called. It's called Limietberg, or the Limit Mountain. Right at the end of this tiny valley, it gets steeper and steeper, and you hit a wall. You look up, and it's quite steep in all directions, but there's still enough light access to the certain pockets where you have fantastic soils for wine. They've got all sorts of weird names. Hutton and Clavelli came up. Hutton is a fairly high nutritious soil, a soil with biomass. Clavelli is a soil which has very high nutrient value, very low biomass. But these are soils which are weathered granites, weathered shales, and alluvials, which, when this part of the world used to be actually by the sea or actually underwater, as that receded, you're left with these flaky quartz and alluvial, very fine sand shales, which allow for just the right amount of moisture to be kept in the ground, but also lots of minerality to produce very interesting wines. They've got all sorts of names. Some of these we've got here: homogenic Glenrosa soil, Malmesbury shale. They're all quite specialist to the area, but this area between Benskloof and Grunneberg is a really unique little spot. That's a bit of yada yada, isn't it? And you're probably getting kind of thirsty watching me. I think I'd like to concentrate on their whites. They make very, very good reds, and they've made some very interesting choices as well. I think in certain vintages, I think 2021, 2017 back then, they made some very, very nice Malbec, and not many people are growing Malbec in the Cape. And I think with climate changing happening so rapidly in Bordeaux, a lot of people are being more or less forced to plant Malbec because it can tolerate the heat better in order to continue to make wine in their hallowed Cru Classé grounds. Because there's only two choices. Either to remap the whole of Bordeaux further away from the equator as it gets too warm to make great wine, or you plant varieties that can handle the heat. And that's surely got to be the first step, because no one's moving their chateau 5 miles down the road, right? So anyway, interestingly, I think people planting Malbec in South Africa are a little bit ahead of the curve, and it could pay out dividends later on when Malbec gets given a bit more of a polish and there's more reverence. We've already seen a huge improvement in the respect for the wines of Cahors in the southwest of France, which are mostly Malbec. Anyway, so Malbec, they do some Grenache, they do some Carignan, they do all sorts of bits and bobs. But what excites me most is this Limit vineyard. There's a Chenin Blanc called Rivierstein, Riverstone, and I don't know what Muristond means, but the Limitberg Chardonnay is also really quite something. And what's also lovely is that Lou has sent us a bottle of 2018 of each. Currently, it must be 21 or 22. Maybe they do hold them back. I'm not sure. Maybe Lou can tell me. But 2018 was quite a hot vintage with relatively low rainfall, but it also was a vintage where there was great health and actually fairly even ripeness. So you could pick them a bit earlier, but you had some refreshing acidities in the wine. These wines, despite they coming from South Africa, are not hugely alcoholic. The Chardonnay is 12.5. The Chenin is 12.4. Let's start off with a little glass of 2022 Doolhof Sauvignon Blanc. Okay, so Sauvignon Blanc 2022 was a solid year for whites. 23 has turned out to be a next level Chardonnay vintage, very late picked, very low pHs. The wines are atypical and not as blocky and rich and as powerful as they are often in most vintages in South Africa. But in 2023, these wines are going to age for 10, 15, 20 years. Even co-op wines, I've tried Chardonnays from Ribexkloof or from Paarl co-op. These are wines that only cost a fiver, and these wines feel like they're going to be delicious in 15 years' time. So lots of bargains to be had. But this is 22, which is lovely. So we've got wine with bottle age on it, and Sauvignon Blanc. How often do you see Sauvignon that's more than 6 months old? Well, all this talk about minerality and stones and stuff in the soil, there's definitely something going on here. I'm not sure exactly where this specific vineyard is. I'm not necessarily in Limietberg. Oh, it's W.O. Limietberg, so it's actually definitely from the same spot. It's lost its precocious New Zealand passion fruit yatta da 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 thing, It got a hell of a lot more serious. The mouth is drenched in kind of that slight bitterness that you get from basil leaves. It's like kind of fecund and juicy, but in a vegetal sort of way. It's got lovely hit of spice on the back. Really weird kind of, when I say weird, a surprising note of almost cinnamon and black fruits like blackcurrant as well. But it's not blackcurrant leaf. It's not that kind of green blackcurrant. It's more like blueberry fruit. Anyway, not a bad little number. A bit different. Nice to see a wine that's advanced in its years for a Sauvignon Blanc at least. Yeah, there you go. Doolhof 2022 Sauvignon Blanc. Well, that's kind of like the palate cleanser. That was just to wet my whistle because it seems that spring has sprung today. I've been told today is the first day where it's going to be the sun won't set until after 10 past 7 or something. And the next time it sets before that, it's going to be October the 8th. Woo-ha! So finally getting some warm weather into this country, hopefully. Look at that, very fancy. I love the label. Isn't that gorgeous? That's the vineyard. If you stand there, that's exactly what it looks like. That's a painting, and quite a realistic painting of these wonderful long vines in this incredible soil, these shales and clay soils. Moorestond, barrel fermented Chardonnay, 2018. Now, I don't really have to assess whether this wine's any good because it's already been revered by its peers. This wine was a 96 pointer and gold medal winner at the Decanter Wine Awards 2 or 3 years ago. So all we can decide is, does it taste nicer older? And I'm actually it's going to. Beautiful colour. Coming 2018. So that's 6 years old, a bit longer actually. Oh my word. This is wonderful and delicate. I remember sitting in the vineyard or standing in the vineyard and we were poured these wines so we could feel the vineyard and taste, which is a magical way to feel the real expression of a wine. I remember thinking, God, I can't wait for this wine to come to the country. I bet it's going to cost a fortune. Well, I imagine it's probably not. There's not much change out of 40 quid. I don't know. But it definitely smells like 30 quid plus. But this is in a climate and a country and a time when village supermarket Burgundy costs that. Like Co-op Merceau is 40 quid. Quality village Merceau is 50 or 60 pounds. So just don't think it's expensive because even at 24 rand to the pound, this offers incredible value for money. It's subtle, smells of toasted hazelnuts, coriander seed, white chocolate, might I say, dried tangerine and orange peel. Really, those are all classic Merceau-like definitions. It has some salinity. It dances in the mouth because it's not 14%, it's only 12.5%. And also because it's 12.5%, it doesn't have that soppy sweetness that you can sometimes get from serious but ripe New World Chardonnays. This wine is really incredibly restrained. Very, very fresh. Still got plenty of aging to go. Oh, wow. Don't know what I would eat with that. Maybe something like a slice of turbot, roasted turbot with an almond crust or something like that. Something old school and classic. God, that's delicious. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lou. So this is probably the first time anybody's seen anyone talk about Doolhof in this country. And I just want to say, this is bottle 511 of like 512, I don't know. Fantastic wine. Just look it up. Doolhof. See if you can find it. Certainly, pound for pound, as good as virtually any other of the great Sauvignon Chardonnays that I can think of from South Africa. So this is the last one of the three. Doolhof Rivierstein, which means Riverstone. And there's a kind of, I suppose there's a bit of a joke there, because Stein, Steen, was the old name for Chenin Blanc anyway. So I imagine that South Africans would look at it and go, Rivierstein. Yeah, what a sense of humour. Anyway, but let's have a look here. This 2018 Chenin. I remember this being a lot more backward. When I tasted the vineyard 3 years ago, I remember thinking this wine actually was more austere than the Chardonnay, which is not common. I mean, Chenin in South Africa tends to have more a bit more robustness, a bit more richness, more honeysuckle and quince and stuff. But there are the super, super, supremely stony elegant ones, of course, made by people like Susie and Chris Allhite. Beautiful colour again. I mean, that's the perfect colour for an aged wine. It has a brilliance, a shine to it that shows it's full of energy. Still got plenty of Jedi chi in there, packed with midichlorians. Okay, right. First thing I can smell is I couldn't work out whether it was tomato or fruit, so let's call it persimmon. It smells of persimmons. Okay, lovely winter fruit, custard apple, dried citrus. I'll go sort of lime, mayor lemon rather than orange this time. Wonderful texture. Toothsome, has a nice drag. It doesn't go through the mouth easily. It's not kind of soft and limpid and slick. It has matter. So despite the fact that it's only 12 and a bit percent alcohol, it feels like it's got real presence. It lets you know that it's there. And it has the most wonderful kind of beguiling, almost teasing, bitter, sweet, sour fruits. Where are we at with this? Oh, mango, green mango slightly. Then again, there's kind of like nutty undertone, not toasted hazelnuts here this time, more Brazil nut, more earthiness, more earthy depths. So if this is called Riverstone, I can certainly taste the Riverstones. I mean, that's a lovely name for the wine. And other than that, wine's utterly delicious. If this wine is being sold at Ellison Richmond or at Richmond Wine and Cheese for anything around £30, then I think that it's an absolute steal. I'd still be consider this if it was slightly over 40. If it's less than that, wow. I was just trying to find prices, but I actually don't have a restaurant, so I don't know the Ellison Richmond wine list. But there we go. Three wines. A Sauvignon Blanc, which is interesting. Certainly needs a couple of South African oysters. And then two absolutely majestic, very handsomely packaged South African whites, which after waiting 3 years to see them here in this country and to see how they've come on since I first tried them, their first releases roughly, I'm absolutely amazed. I think these wines are absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to be following these for some years to come. See you next time.